fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration. I hope everybody had a fantastic 4th. I did. Woke up today, some terrible news. JB was messaging me this morning, and then he called me. The branch office, branch 4 here in Nashville, was completely gutted by a fire that started next door. That is a part of this business complex. Sent me pictures, devastating. Lost everything. And so that's how the Monday started out here in Nashville, is that the branch 4 office was completely gutted by fire. And so just pray for them that work out of there. I just got off the phone with Dana just a second ago, and, you know, heads going everywhere trying to get this thing figured out as far as insurance-wise. Just so much stuff going on, too. JB's grievances are up there, and everything's backed up. But, you know, all the grievance files are up there. And he was, I think, had 87 that he was working on. And so just a terrible thing, man. Terrible thing. So just keep that branch, my branch, in your prayers, that they'll get that stuff sorted out. I know that that's tough. That's tough, man, because it sent me a picture. The whole thing's gutted. There's nothing there. It's completely burnt. And JB said he was sitting outside before they could get in. He's like, I don't know what's going to be saved or salvageable. He said, but there's water just pouring out of Dana's office, because her office is right there at the parking lot. And so just terrible, man. Terrible situation for my branch. And, you know, just thinking about Dana and JB and all those that work up there. And so, yeah, that's tough, man. Now, Knoxville. Dana and I were supposed to be there tomorrow. That may be canceled, okay, because she has got a lot of stuff, being the president here, to take care of. And so we may be canceling tomorrow. We'll let you know, okay, on social media and whatnot. But probably going to end up canceling that. And so we'll reschedule that probably next month. We'll reschedule Kingsport as well next month and get up there and see those people. But yeah, that's tough, man. That is tough. James and I will be in branch 70 on the 9th this week. We'll be in branch 70, that's San Diego, and can't wait to get up there and see you folks and talk to everybody. We were in Fresno, California last week, branch 231, and had a fantastic time there. Now, that was a stewards meeting, and so it had a great turnout. We had a lot of people, of branch presidents and their executive councils from other branches come, and so that was a fantastic time. That was a fantastic time being able to speak with them. It was funny because James, I flew in that day, and Eric Ellis, who was a fantastic individual, he came and picked us up from the airport. So he picks me up, drive to the office. I start talking because James's flight got delayed. So I start speaking to everybody. James finally gets there from his delayed flight. He was able to speak for about 30 minutes. Then he had to be driven. We were driven by Eric Ellis 2.5 hours down to Sacramento so James could get a flight back to Washington to go to work that next day. And so James flew from Washington to speak for 30 minutes, tell people the plan and everything, answer questions, and then flew back to Washington. And that's my man right there, brother. That's dedication. And so, but hey, that's how it's been, man. We've been having a blast getting out, seeing everybody, talking with everybody. A special thanks, like I said, to Eric Ellis, who came and picked us up from the airport and then drove us 2.5 hours to Sacramento, then drove back. And, so he was looking at getting back home about 1 a.m. But it was his first day of retirement. So that's a hell of a first day. Congratulations to Mr. Ellis on his retirement. And so, but yeah, that was a fantastic time. Like I said, we'll be in branch 70, San Diego on the 9th. and hopefully we'll be able to see everybody there. Campaigning's going well. Thank you so much for everybody who reached out about donating. And some people are having issues with donating. If you go to concernedlettercarriers.com, and this is my fault, if you go to concernedlettercarriers.com and scroll down, there will be a large yellow button that says donate. And that will take care of you, okay? And so that's my fault last week. People were saying, hey, want to donate, how? And I was like, well, that's a pretty good question. But go to concernedlettercarriers.com, scroll down to donate. It's a large yellow button, donate, and you can donate there. But thank you all that donated. And if you can, donate. If you can, donate. It's going to take a lot of money to do what we want to do. We're going to put out a mailing to everybody. Every city letter carrier and retiree in the country will get a pamphlet with the CLC slate. And then a couple of weeks before the ballots come out, I'm going to have an episode every night. We'll have a member of the CLC on every night. And it's that important. It's that important. I saw something on the UPS website or Facebook page, and they were talking about what the members wanted. And the main thing that they wanted was a more militant union. And that was one thing. I took a screenshot of it. It says they wanted it to be more militant. And that's what the letter carriers want. They want a more militant NALC. Right now we're a cowardly NALC. We are not working for the city letter carriers. We're working for ourselves. And that will never pass the test. The carriers want a more militant NALC, and that's exactly what the CLC is it's going to bring militancy back to this union, which we so desperately need. The time for talking is over. The time for talking with these bastards across the table is over. It's time to bring militancy back to this son of a bitch, and that's what we're going to do. Now, we have entered the stooge phase of campaigning. The stooge phase. And what I mean is you have a lot of stooges out there. Some are good people, but they're being influenced by their business agents who are too fucking cowardly to come out and say anything themselves. And so they'll have their stooges get on social media and start talking a lot of shit. And a lot of it's unfounded. But you know that it's come from the business agent's office because it's only things the business agents would be privy to. And so we have entered the stooge phase. So just be leery on social media of the stooges. You got a bunch out there right now that are talking some just dumbass shit. There's one I know that they're talking about. I'll just address a few of them right here since it's my podcast. But talking about James Henry missing executive council meetings. And so this one and me, we were going at it, and I said, hey, just produce the receipts, man. I know how many James has missed over the last year. Produce the receipts. If you're ever going to say something, produce the fucking receipts. I don't ever say anything on here unless I got the fucking receipts. I'm not going to be caught with my pants down. But this dude was adamant about James missing executive council meetings. I said, produce the receipts. I will. I'm still waiting on them motherfucking receipts. I'll tell you how many James has missed over the last year. He's missed 2. He missed one when his father passed away, and he missed that one to tend to his father and their affairs. And so I'm going to say that was probably excused, the passing of your father. The second one, he was on approved annual. We were together, and Renfro called an emergency executive council meeting because they were going to go over charges filed against a current business agent that was running for president. And so James could not attend that one because we was on approved annual because we were out campaigning. And so James asked, which is the practice, to be able to be on Zoom for that executive council meeting. Other members of the executive council are allowed to participate via Zoom if they're not there in person. And Renfro denied that to him. And so he was not able to make that one, but he was on approved annual. Those are the 2. But you'll see stooges get on social media trying to infer something about executive. How many have you missed? Well, they won't answer it, but it leaves that taste in people's mouths of, is he missing executive council meetings? Why is he not? Because you don't tell the fucking truth. Another one is that he is missing all this work on the union dime campaigning. That's bullshit. James goes to work every single day. If he has a union meeting that we're going to go to in the evening, he'll go in at 3 in the morning to work, and then he'll get off at whatever his 8 hours is, and then he'll fly to where we got to go, and then he will fly out that night to get back to work. Like he said, you're not going to put a charge on him of him not going to work. So he goes to work every single day. But you'll see the stooges out there talking about that. Just a lot of shit that they're trying to do. Renfro has denied him all of his leave without pay requests. Now you'll have some that will get on there and they'll say, well, he needs to be at work. I know this as a union person myself, as a shop steward. If management came out and put on my time clock that there will be no requests for leave without pay granted. They will all be denied from here to the end of the year. Absolutely no leave without pay will be granted. I'm going to file a grievance on that because that's a policy inconsistent with Section 5 of the Elm. That's management's local leave policy that's inconsistent with the Elm, right? But you'll have those people that will side with Renfro and they'll say, good for Renfro for denying his leave without pay. He needs to be at work. Well, what if your boss said that to you? You'd be raising hell. But since it's James, it's different, right? But James is going to win this motherfucker, and y'all need to get over it. Okay? To all the business agents that have sent y'all stooges onto social media to say all this dumbass shit, knowing that they'll take the flack for it and you won't because you're too cowardly to come out here and say anything, get the fuck over it. James is going to win. That's just how it is. But, you know, if you want to set your stooges out there, that's fine. That's fine. But, you know, it's a lot of misinformation right now. And that's fine. You know, that's fine if you want to operate. Do what you got to do. Let me see if I can find some. I think I took a screenshot or two of what I'm talking about. And this episode is going to be all over the place. I've got so many screenshots. I'm going to focus on the 701 rule, and it's everywhere. Okay, the 701, the union's everywhere on that. We have a lot of different positions on 701. And so I'm going to touch on that a little bit. I have some sites for you, and we'll go over that. But there's a lot of screenshots and a lot of other things that I'm going to go over because I've been just collecting these things for so damn long. Here's a stooge right here. This is from his business agent, okay? And it's other things like that. It says, is on one of James's videos. It says, the best ability is dependability. That's James's saying. Where is Michael Rivera's appeal at, brother? You were in charge of that before you went on tour. So talking about campaigning, right? He's on tour. Can Brother Rivera depend on you to look at your boy, Ricardo's branch, and his decisions with objectivity? How are they getting your dependability when you aren't at work because you're on tour? That's a lie. So this person decided to lie. For what reason? Why would you lie like that? You don't have James's 3972. But you see these stooges coming out talking about objectivity, but yet you choose to lie on social media. Knowing that James has recused himself from that Rivera situation. Rivera knows that. Others that have come out trumpeting this same bullshit know that James has recused himself long ago from this situation. Because James is on the Board of Appeals. He's over the appeals. He's recused himself from that. So that there wouldn't be any appearance of wrongdoing on his part. But these people know that. But they keep saying this dumbass shit because they're stooges. Talking about on tour because James is campaigning. Your president is actively campaigning, but he hasn't come out and said he's running yet. Why? Because when he does, he cannot send buttons out. Talking about fight like hell, talking about all these different things on your dime. James is using his money, not the union dues, to go around the country. So why does it fucking bother you? If James is going to work every single day, which he is, and he's using his own money, which he can, to go and campaign, which he must do because he's going against the incumbent, why does it bother you so bad? Because these same stooges want someone else to run that refuses to do so. But they will come out with all these lies. And it goes on to say, what about executive board meetings? How many have you missed? He's missed 2. One from his father passing away. And the other, he was on approved annual. And you can't prove otherwise. Here's another one. And this was this thing put out, the 2025 LM2 disclosures. Talks about James Henry's finances, his total compensation, $483,000. A blatant lie. But they don't care. They don't care about that. James's total compensation is $206,000. That's based off the Constitution, right? The president is $253,000. Total compensation is $312,000. Executive vice president is $213,000. Total compensation is $248,000. And James Henry, $206,000. Total compensation, $206,000. But you will have these stooges come out. This is a website, Route 26. I don't know who in the fuck that is, but they're constantly putting out disinformation that James makes $483,000. And so, yeah. Here's another stooge commenting on somebody else's thing. Can you tell us the CLC plan for getting anything different out of a dying organization? What would you do right now at the bargaining table? And somebody else commented on that, talking about a dying organization, the Postal Service. A dying organization does not make money. We made $119 million last year, more than we did the previous year. We've made $80 billion last year. That's $6 billion more than the peak of our volume. And so a dying organization does not make money. We make money. Now, we're mismanaged. We're mismanaged terribly. But those things will be discussed at the bargaining table. How are you going to get this? How are you going to get that? What you do is you come up with a game plan on how you're going to get these things, and you don't concede your position like our current president does. If anybody else wants to run, get the fuck up and throw your name in the arena, and let's go. It's that fucking simple. If you want to fucking go, let's get it. Get up, put your name in the fucking arena, and let's go. It's that fucking simple. A lot of people on the establishment side are just bitter as fuck because they have nobody that can beat James. James is basically going unopposed right now. There's nobody that can challenge James as far as his record or the things that he's done for the NLC and the city letter carrier. Nobody. And they're having a hell of a fucking time trying to convince somebody to get their raggedy ass up and go at him. That's the best idea. If you don't like things, get somebody to get in the arena and let's fucking go. If not, shut the fuck up and vote. Vote for who the fuck ever. But the constant misinformation by these stooges, it will get worse. I promise you. It will get worse. They are getting desperate. They are getting desperate. And because they have there's no answer for James. So the business agents, they send their stooges out there to put all this misinformation out there, yet nobody's running. What good is it? Which is bizarre. What good is it to put all this misinformation out there other than to try to help Renfro? That's the only one who would benefit. Nobody else is running that's competent. If you're looking at character integrity, nobody else is running besides James that has any character integrity. So who's it for? If it's for a business agent, tell the motherfucker to get in there. Suit the fuck up and let's go. Shit. But they'll all have to come out by August 5th. August 5th they'll have to come out if if they're going to run or not. Okay, but yeah, we're officially in the stooge phase. In the stooge phase of campaigning. I know you'll see a lot of people too. It happened to me, and it's fine because I don't mind saying anything to anybody's face that I don't say on here on messages, but they'll private message you and try to engage you, and if you talk to them, then they'll screenshot it and put it on social media. I mean, that's bitch ass, but like I said, I'll say whatever to anybody. I know they did that to Charlie Miller the other day. They'll get it engaged in a conversation, and then they'll put that on social media. I had an individual that asked a lot of questions on social media, and I'm like, you got my phone number. Just call me and ask me. Because they're like, why aren't you doing this, doing that? I was like, why do you come on social media and ask questions when you got my number? Just call me and ask me. So the individual called me. We talked for a while. About 10 minutes after we got off the phone, James Henry messages me and said, hey, the business agent just messaged saying that he had heard this during your conversation with this individual. So the individual immediately got off the phone with me and called his business agent, who called James. I'm like, just fucking call me. Hell, it's no secret how I feel. I think a lot of motherfuckers are cowardly as fuck. I mean, that's no secret. I say it on here. But yeah, it's shit's getting fun, man. During the stooge phase of the campaign, but we're not going to stop. We're going to run through this fucking tape. I know that. We're running through this fucking tape, and August 5th. You will see us standing up there in force, getting nominated. Okay? So get your people ready. Y'all come on and get some. All right? I'm going to just run through some clips of things, okay? And then we'll get into the 701 thing. And it's going to be a lot of reading. I apologize. Just to kind of give you the arbitrator's opinion, pro and con, okay? And that's a different little thing there, 701. I'll get into that. Here's something. Now, here's right here during this period of time where the Postal Service is saying they're broke. We've already addressed this numerous times. We are going to be targeted, okay, with different things. You got the heat going on. You got these scanner messages going on, these instructions in the morning, turning off the AC on us in the office to try to force us out, making us do all of our work out in the parking lot as far as the packages are concerned. So management right now is at an all-time high of lying and cheating and stealing, okay? It's rampant right now due to the position of the Postal Service with them saying that they're broke, all right? And so we have got to continue to educate ourselves, even though the grievance procedure right now is broken under this current administration. Even though it's broken, we've got to do our due diligence down here on the workroom floor. We cannot stop fighting for each other down here on the workroom floor. Light blue has got to continue to fight for light blue, and that's what we will do. We'll file the grievance, and then those at the top, whatever in the fuck y'all going to do it. But we're going to continue to educate ourselves down here on the workroom floor and fighting. Everywhere I look, the city letter carrier is fighting for the city letter carrier, educating the city letter carrier. It is a beautiful thing to see that in the absence of our agent during our fight, the absence of the NALC during our fight, the business agents are more concerned about themselves than the city letter carrier. You got Renfro and Barner, they're AWOL. You got Toth, what the fuck. But during the absence of all these things, the city letter carrier is helping, educating, and fighting for the city letter carrier. When you look at the heat issues, all over social media, carriers are educating carriers on how to stay safe in the heat. We have stood up, and I said this a year or so ago, maybe 2 years ago. The city letter carrier has stood up, and the agent has no idea what to do with us. The employer has no idea what to do with us because this is a first. They have never seen this before. The city letter carrier standing up, right? They're no longer going to get whipped into staying down on all fours. They have stood up. So it's a beautiful thing to see. Light blue educating light blue, right? And so I just wanted to say that. And I'll get into some of that again in a second. When I got back to the office, I had to shut down the evening supervisor. They're stuck on this mandatory 10-minute evening office time. And we've dealt with that before, 5-minute PM office time, okay? This mandatory 10-minute evening office time, there is no such thing. There's no such thing as a set PM office time. It takes what it takes, okay? And so that's just another thing. This mandatory 10-minute PM office time. No such thing. And I told the individual, ask for that in writing. Ask anytime they come out with something. Hey, my district manager is saying that we have a 10-minute office time, PM office time. Get it in writing. It's going to help us when we file this grievance, okay? 5-minute PM off, get it in writing. I'm going to request it. If it's some AMSOP, if it's some standard operating procedure, PM office standard operating procedure, something like that that they've come up with nationally or regionally or district-wide, let's get that in writing. Always get it in writing, okay? It's going to help us when we file a grievance, because what's going to happen is when we go to them with a grievance, they're going to say, oh, well, that's not mandatory. There's nothing in writing about that. You take what you want to take. That's what's going to happen, because they know that you're calling their bluff, okay? Let's get it in writing first. Here's another thing that somebody sent me. Their post office is too small, okay? And so they have all of their vans lined up, 7, 8, 9, 10 on this side, about the same amount on this other side, all the doors open, packages lined up on the parking lot. Just lined, thousands of packages on the parking lot. Now here's carriers, and I have a screenshot, and I'll tell it to you in a second. At 8 a.m., it was 95 degrees. At 8 a.m., it was 95 degrees. Here's my carriers. Rather than being in the air condition, out in the drive in a parking lot, all of their packages on the ground. I said, file a 1767. You're fixing talking about going into 10-hour work days, 4 days a week. The only avenue that we, or one of them that we have for any kind of heat abatement is being in the office where there's a semblance of air conditioning. But no, during the time that I could be in the air conditioning, I'm already in the heat of day with my packages all over the parking lot. And they're separating them like that. That's what your employer thinks of you. We're talking about people dying. We're talking about heat stress. We're trying to educate people on hydrating, what to wear, take breaks as needed in the heat. And what does management do? They have us in a position where the only time that we have any kind of heat abatement, one of them, you have me in the parking lot. Packages strewn everywhere. Doors open, back doors, side doors, putting packages into a vehicle. What's the use of having a hamper with a false bottom, or having a hamper with tubs inverted in it, if you're going to have all my shit on the driveway, just sitting there? But that's what we deal with. Somebody in safety should be jumping up and fucking down on that. Somebody should. I've said it before. Where's my fucking union at? Where's my union at? When you talk about UPS saying that the thing they're voting for is a more militant union, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I need a more militant union. I need motherfuckers coming to work in dress pants, dress shirt, and steel-toed shoes. Right? Steel-toed boots. Because we're going to be putting our foot in management's ass when the CLC takes over. I'm so sick and tired of this shit, where our carriers are every day, our carriers are exposed to this type of mismanagement. We've got to do something about it. Somebody's got to stand up eventually and be our fucking champion. Where's our safety people at? What are they doing? Where are they? I want a presence. I contacted Manny, who I love. I contacted him a couple of weeks ago about some heat issues that I was talking about on here. Never heard from him. Now, he may have changed his number in his defense. He may have changed his telephone number, his cell phone number, because this is the one I got written down. Never heard from him. I need a presence and safety. Not just somebody you talk to and they say, look at this. I need the Director of Safety and Health to be a ramrod right now during this situation. That's what I need. I don't need a name or a figurehead. I need a fucking ramrod that's going to show up at a place. Now, who are you? I'm the Director of Safety and Health for the NELC. And I need to see these reports. I need to see this. What's going on? All my carriers are out in the fucking parking lot and their packages are strewn everywhere and it's 95 fucking degrees. That's why. That's what this is about. I need a presence back in this union. When they fear NALC, when they fear that again, we have lost our fucking way becoming a more political union. You don't need a more political union. It's gotten us nowhere. We're getting trounced right now on the Hill and in social media and in the public eye. We're getting bludgeoned right now because we've become a more political union. We don't want to offend anybody. I'm going to be the number one offender that's ever worked at the NELC. I'm going to offend motherfuckers all the time. Do you know why? Because the only thing that's important to me is light fucking blue. That's why. That's all that's important. Making relationships and friendships and all that. Fuck all that. It's time to bring militancy back to the NELC. It's time. We need a presence again. Somebody who's just going to show, they're going to say, hey, Director of Safety and Health, this is what's going on at my state. Is this going on every day? Yeah, every day. They've got y'all's packages lined up on the damn sidewalk, driveway, parking lot. They've got those lined up every day like that? Yes. And what are y'all doing? Well, we come out there, we open up our doors, and we separate them right there off the fucking ground. Yeah. All right. What time y'all start? 7? I'll see y'all at 7. I'll see y'all at 7. I'll be on the back fucking dock. I'm going to let the district manager know today that I'll be there tomorrow. And if he wants to come out, great. If not, I'm going to be there by myself. We're going to remedy this. My carriers are not going to have a 10-hour day and 9 hours and 45 minutes of that outside. Supervisor started to use a sheet with 1-year-old $39.99 as a quote-unquote performance estimate tool. I'll read this. Supervisor started using a sheet with 1-year-old $39.99 as a performance estimate tool, trying to convince us that these numbers are very legit and pretty accurate to estimate my route today. Can I file a grievance to stop them from using this form, as it is an unofficial, locally developed form? I feel this creates daily harassment. Yes, if it's a locally developed form, you can definitely grieve that form under the ASM. I would also use, and a lot of people were helping out on this one, which was fantastic. It's great to see. You're going to use step 4's 304, 1769, 1444. Okay? We have no street standard. You can't compare anything from one day to the next. We have no standard on the street. There's no set pace at which you must walk. No set pace for walking, right? We have no street standard. And that counts for mounted routes as well. We have no street standard. Always remember that. There is no demonstrated performance. As I have no street standard. Every day is different. If you've actually done the fucking job, we know that. Those motherfuckers who don't know that. They're just doing what their bosses say. Hey, tell them their demonstrated performance is. Hell, I read you a fucking discipline last week or the week before talking about demonstrated performance. We have no demonstrated performance. There is no set pace at which I must walk. There is none. So, supervisors starting to use a sheet with 1-year-old $39.99 as a performance estimate tool. M304, M1769, M1444. There is no street standard. Also, M829. M829. And remember that one. I'm going to read part of it to you. It says in part, after further review of this matter, we mutually agreed that no national interpretive issue is fairly presented in the particular evidence in this case. Under Article 16, no employee may be disciplined except for just cause. In this instance, the parties agree that a one-day count and inspection, that's the 99, that's 1838C and a 1999, 39.99. The party agrees that a one-day count and inspection may not be used as the sole basis to establish a standard against which a carrier's performance may be measured. And it goes on to state for disciplinary purposes, but we will use that part where it says inspection may not be used as the sole basis to establish a standard against which a carrier's performance may be measured. Okay, that's your $39.99. So to this individual saying the supervisor started using a sheet with 1-year-old $39.99 as a performance estimate tool. That's a violation of M304, 1769, 1444, and 829, as well as the ASM. Okay, that's a locally generated form. Here's another thing. This is from the clerks. And this is what I'm talking about. These are the things that I told you I'm going to be all over the place on this one. I'm just doing screenshots, so forgive me. These are things that when we go to Capitol Hill, when we talk about snitching on people, we're in a prime area right now to be snitching, right? This is an opportune time for us to snitch on people. This is from the clerks. Management forcing us to falsify scans. So in order to keep with packages appearing off the EOD reports, management takes clerk scanners to kill packages in the afternoons. With available for pickup, caller service scans, supervisor does this on his own. When the supervisor is off, the postmaster covers and comes to the clerks with the tracking numbers for clerks to scan themselves, forcing us to do it. This causes massive headaches when customers come in looking for the package that we don't have and can't find. We then ask clerks to give the paper with a tracking number to the carrier so they can type it in the following day as delivered on the customer's doorstep. Should we get the APW involved? Should the NEOC also be involved? Yes. Yes on both. Falsifying scans. I'm not falsifying a package scan. I had a 204B, and it was months ago, started here, and they gave me a list when I came back. This is honest God's truth. When I came back off the street, they gave me a list, and I said, what is that? Well, those are package scans. I said, okay. Well, these are packages that came in after you left. I need you to scan those as delivered. I handed them back the list, not doing it. Excuse me? Not doing that. I'm not falsifying a scan. If the package is here in this station, I'm not going to falsify a scan saying it was delivered. You know why? Because I didn't deliver it. And I'm not falsifying a package scan. But he was handing those to everybody. Those packages that either got misthrown or came in late, and they wanted them all killed. And so they said, hey, just hand these numbers to the carriers to scan when they get back saying they're delivered. So he handed me a list of about 7, 8 packages. What's that? I need you to put these in as delivered. Not doing that. Not going to do it. Not going to do that. Okay, I just got a call from Dana. Knoxville has been rescheduled till August 18th. Okay, August 18th is rescheduled so that she can take care of this mess here with the branch hall. And so anyway, August 18th for Knoxville, we reschedule that. And we'll be looking to reschedule Kingsport as well. Okay. Sorry about that, but she just called, so hopefully I don't even know where I stopped right there before I got that. But here's something that somebody put out. It's from Representative Pat Ryan. And this is what I'm talking about. We need to strike while the iron's hot. We need to continue to go after management and whoever else who's trying to erode our service. When you heard the Postmaster General talking about eroding our service standards, days of delivery, times of delivery, we've got to get these people on our side right now, Republican, Democrat, Independent, and trounce these attempts to erode our service. We do not need to be changed into a business. We are a service. We have to remind everybody all the time that we are a free service. That's what we are. That's who we are. We are a free service. Okay? From the people to the people. We need to say that every single day. We're not a business. People like y'all losing business. We're a free service to the people by the people. Okay? So to me, that should exempt us from anything. That should exempt us from everything. Constitutionally, we're a free service by the people to the people. Are we mismanaged? Absolutely we are. Absolutely we're mismanaged. You look at just a laundry list of things showing mismanagement. Light blue, we come to work every single day and do our job, and we go home. We're not mismanaged here. We don't mismanage our routes. We come in, stick our mail, go deliver our mail in all kinds of weather. Come back, do our PM office duties, and go home. Mismanagement is what's killing the Postal Service. Okay? So here's this from Pat Ryan, and I wanted to read it. But this is kind of where we need to go. The U.S. Postal Service is not a luxury. For many communities in the Hudson Valley, it is a lifeline. That's especially the case in West Park, where it's one of the few meeting places in town. We cannot allow USPS to rip the rug out from under our neighbors. That's why we're fighting back. Everyone in the Hudson Valley, no matter where they live, deserves access to top-notch postal services right in their own community. Our postal workers deserve to work where they live. USPS owes the Hudson Valley better, and our community is ready to rally in force to save the West Park Post Office and ensure our neighbors don't get left behind. And here's the letter. The Honorable David Steiner, Postmaster General and Chief Executive Officer. Dear Postmaster General Steiner, I'm writing to you today regarding the threatened closure of the United States Postal Service USPS office in West Park, New York. Last week, hundreds of my constituents abruptly received notice that their local post office would be closing. This is unacceptable and has caused significant hardship for the residents of West Park. Closure of this branch has the potential to disrupt my constituents' daily routines and force them to travel 5.5 miles to Highland, New York for basic postal services. All of my constituents are entitled to the reliable and accessible postal services regardless of where they live, and this postal office is a lifeline for many of them. This situation demands your immediate attention. There must be another solution that does not deprive this community of its local post office. Not only do folks depend on the USPS to receive medications, official documents, legal notices, and personal correspondences from loved ones, but post offices also serve as an important community centers. In communities like West Park that lack access to rural delivery, residents drive to the post office to pick up mail, where they engage with their neighbors and develop relationship with the local postal workers. The West Park Post Office is described by residents as the heart of our community. That was demonstrated on June 22, 2026, when close to 100 constituents gathered for a community meeting to express their strong opposition to this closure. The West Park Post Office cannot close without a guarantee of interrupted postal services for nearby residents, a commitment to a good faith effort to renew the current lease, and, if that is not possible, a concerted plan to identify a suitable replacement location. My office remains committed to partnering with you to achieve a workable solution. I urge you to take seriously the rights of my constituents to reliable mail delivery services and a well-run post office in their community. Thank you for your consideration, and I look forward to working together to continue to operate a USPS office in West Park, New York. Sincerely, Patrick Ryan. And so that's what we need to get behind. Anytime they talk about closing something, we need to rally around it. We need to support those individuals, being able to send them data, send them things that they may not have. And that's what the NLC needs to do. Any place that's targeted, have a packet we can send you right now that shows the importance of who you are, whatever else with your community, and have that, and then rally behind those individuals however we need to, and to make sure that we do not cut delivery, cut our service. And that's exactly what's happening right now. We cannot allow them their foot in the door on cutting our service, right? Here's another one, the USPS statement. The United States Postal Service is committed to providing reliable and efficient mail service to its customers. Right after I just read the Patrick Ryan thing. The United States Postal Service is committed to providing reliable and efficient mail service to its customers. And that's a bunch of shit. That's a lie. Because you have routes going undelivered. You have a lot of things happening right now for bonus purposes, right? We're not delivering mail to a lot of these routes. A lot of customers are not getting packages and routes. I read you where they're intentionally falsifying package scans, wanting clerks to do it, who are in turn wanting us to do it. It is not that. When it says the United States Postal Service is committed to providing reliable and efficient mail service, that's not true. And we need to be pointing that out. We need to be pointing that out as a union. Here's another thing that goes along with the United States Postal Service is committed to providing reliable and efficient mail service to its customers. Somebody sent me this. I'm going to interview a boss in another station because they gave an order to the city carriers not to deliver ads because they were going to throw them away. That's honest. That's honest God's truth. I'm going to interview a boss in another station because they gave an order to city carriers not to deliver ads because they were going to throw them away. People have spent money to have us deliver things. We're not going to deliver that. We're going to throw those away. Why? Why would we throw anything away? Is it so that you'll receive your bonus? And I'll say that until the end of time now, since you came out with that bonus shit. Is it so that you'll receive your bonus? Is it? Here's another thing you need to be looking for July 4th. And I got a ton of these. You're hereby notified that you've been placed on deems desirable from 7/2 to 7/6. That's a grievance. You must provide documentation for all unscheduled occurrences referenced in the above dates. Thanksgiving holiday week. They kind of got out ahead of themselves, but I'm sure that's just a template. Due to previously attendance issues. Somebody said that they'd called out before last July 4th, and so they received this. But these are given out to a lot of people. There's another one. Subject, deems desirable notification. Here's another one that somebody sent me. As of today, 7/1, I'm giving you notice that I'm placing you on deems desirable for the next 5 days to correct your attendance. This will end on 7/6. If you call out for any reason, I will require acceptable documentation upon your return to work. Now, JB did a fantastic episode on episode 41 on deems desirable. Episode 41. Go back, find episode 41 and listen to it. JB did a fantastic job on grieving deems. Okay, so they're going to put every time there's a holiday, they're going to put us on deems, right? Because they want us to come to work. You can't get sick on a holiday. Those are the only days you can't get sick. They're going to put you on deems. Make sure you're going to those episodes, okay? Episode 41, dealing with deems. Last week, I asked the postmaster about the heat in the building, and she told me to get on the street faster. So that's the remedy. hey, look, we come in here and it's 95 degrees on the workroom floor. Well, you need to get on the street faster. That's exactly why they're turning the heat off, the air off in the buildings in the AM. They're wanting you to get out on the street. So one of the only times during the day when we have access to air, they're turning it off. These things need to be told to those that will put a foot in the Postmaster General's ass. These things need to be documented and forwarded to those people that are grilling the Postmaster General. We're understanding, Mr. Postmaster General, that in a lot of your stations, postal management is turning the air condition off to force the carriers out to the street earlier. What can you say about that? Well, that's the first I'm hearing about it. That's what he'll say. So this is not a directive from you. No. So carriers are being told that the reason there is no air conditioning in the buildings when they are coming in the morning is because they want the carriers on the street faster. And what do you say about that? And get it on the fucking record right there in front of everybody. That's what we need to start doing. We should have some position at the NEOC like let's see here, just brainstorming. Somebody over safety and health for the NEOC. That should be on something, doing something, talking about something, saying, hey, look, to these individuals that are turning the air conditioning off on my carriers, you're going to reap the fucking whirlwind by doing that. Not just, hey, file a grievance or OSHA can't do anything. Do something during the fucking summer when management is doing this shit to light blue, other than direct them to some kind of handbook or manual provision. Be a force, a visual force right now for the letter carriers. When they say, oh, you turn the air conditioning off so that we'll get out on the street faster, I want you to meet somebody. This is motherfuckers over the safety and health force. Talk to him about it. Be a force when we talk about a more militant union. Be militant in the positions where you need to be militant. This is going on every fucking where. SNDCs have this happening. I told you they had the one where the candy was melting in the fucking vending machine. We need a militant union right now. Fuck politics. Be a militant union. Protect light blue. Last week I asked the postmaster about the heat in the building and she's told me to get on the street faster. I have been instructed that those delivering in an LLV can no longer deliver with the shoulder belt off and the driver's door open. In direct opposition to the M41, someone is going to die. At the stand-up, we were told, I have the authority to do so, and I am. I'll read that again. We've been instructed that those delivering in an LLV can no longer deliver with the shoulder belt off and the driver's door open. In direct opposition to the M41, someone is going to die. At the stand-up, where we were told this, he said, I have the authority to do this, and I am. And so that was what was said. If you go to Section 8 of the M41 Handbook, 812.31, 812.31, it states this: when traveling to and from the route, when moving between park and relay points, and when entering or crossing intersection roadways, all external vehicle doors must be closed. When operating a vehicle with sliding driver's cab doors on delivery routes and traveling in intervals of 500 feet or less at speeds not exceeding 15 miles per hour between delivery stops, the right-hand sliding cab door may be left open. Okay? That's M41 Section 8, 812.31. And so that's how I would address that fucking idiot that said that on the workroom floor. You're right. They don't give a fuck if we die or not, though. So That's where we are on that. We're dealing with an organization that does not care about our livelihoods or our safety. They just don't. And so that's how you're going to address that. Here's another one. Talked about wearing CLC buttons on the floor. And this person says, in my branch, the postmaster banned the wearing of the pin. And so I just wrote down that goes against postal policy. I read this before, and it came out June 2nd, 2026. Officers and executives, managers, human resources managers, labor relations, subject guidelines for supervisors during union election activities. And we're going to go back to page 3. Wearing of buttons. Wearing of buttons. 17. Employees who do not deal with the public in the course of their duties may wear buttons, t-shirts, or similar apparel which urge a vote for a particular candidate. The legend must not be insulting or otherwise inappropriate. Employees such as letter carriers, window clerks, etc., who deal with the public in the course of their duties may not wear buttons or other campaign material while in the course of those duties. So in the office, we can wear buttons supporting our candidates. When we go to the street, we must take those buttons off. That's on page 3. That's officers and executives, managers, human resources managers, labor relations, subject guidelines for supervisors during union election activities. I would show this to my manager and let him correct that. If not, I'm going to the head of HR or labor relations and tell them if they do not correct the situation, we're going to have to file a grievance. Okay? And you can get your business agent to get involved. Even if your business agent doesn't care who they vote for or who you vote for, they may not like the CLC. What's right is right. Okay? What's right is right. They shouldn't say, well, you don't have to be wearing that button anyway. What's right is right. It's on page 3. Okay? Wearing of buttons. So that will help you there. Keep on going. All right, you heard about the young lady, the rural carrier, who was murdered. One of the all-time tragic stories you will ever hear, because she was a single mother because the husband had just previously passed away. And so she was a single mother, okay? She was tracked down, kidnapped, and murdered on her route. And so there is a GoFundMe up for the kids. There's a GoFundMe up for the kids. Scholarship Fund for Bailey and Addie's Future. Organized by Jessica Borges. I don't know that last name, I'm sorry. Scholarship Fund for Bela and Addie's Future. Okay? Donate to Scholarship Fund. It's a GoFundMe. If you want more information about it, holler at me. But if you go to Scholarship Fund for Bailey and Addie's Future, you'll find the GoFundMe. And they set a goal of $10,000. Surely we can help out with that. That's Scholarship Fund for Bela and Addie's Future. And it's donate to the Scholarship Fund. Absolutely tragic story where one of our sisters out delivering her route was kidnapped and murdered. Absolutely tragic. I want to talk a little bit about this 701 thing. And we'll be done. This is going to be a little bit because I got to read a lot. But this is a touchy subject, the 701 rule. And there's a lot of different opinions about it. I've had a lot of people ask me my opinion on the 701 rule. Does it hurt our routes? Obviously, when you're taking off early, management's going to look on that and use it against you. Now, can they do that for June, July, and August? No, they can't. They can't. You're going to fall on Section 2 of the M39 242.312. M39 242.312. No mail volume adjustments will be made to carry office work, casing, and strapping out functions or street work evaluations unless the mail volume for the week of count and inspection is at least 13% higher or lower than the average mail volume for the period between the most recent regular and current inspection, excluding the months of June, July, August, and December. So management is prohibited from using that data in route count and inspections. Even a joint process will not allow them to use June, July, and August. So now we have a different beast now when we're talking about the 701 rule. June, July, and August cannot be used. You had, I don't know if y'all remember, but it was M 1976 and 1913. This is just going to with the pros and cons, okay? M 1976 and M 1913, it was during COVID, if you can remember, and this is Fred Rolando and Thomas Bloom. The following memorandum of understanding between the United States Postal Service and the National Association of Letter Carriers have been extended through May 6, 2022. The parties agreed to meet and discuss these memorandum of understanding prior to May 6th to determine whether or not further extension is appropriate, reinstatement of temporary additional paid leave for CCAs, temporary use of the Employee and Labor Relations Manual ELM 432.53 701 rule, and it had some other things, but that's ELM 432.53. The parties agreed to discuss these memorandum prior to May 6, but that's a 701 rule. Here's 1913. Memorandum of Understanding between the United States Postal Service and the National Association of Letter Carriers. Temporary use of the Employee and Labor Relations Manual, ELM 432.53, City Letter Carriers 701 rule. For the 60-day duration of this Memorandum of Understanding, the parties agreed that the Postal Service will institute the use of Employee and Labor Relations Manual, Section 432.53, City Letter Carriers 701 rule. A city letter carrier who actually works more than 7 hours but less than 8 hours of a regular scheduled day will, upon his or her request, be officially excused from the completion of an 8-hour tour and still credited with 8 hours of work time for pay purposes. Any hours not worked between the 7th and 8th hour of regular scheduled day pursuant to ELM 432.53 are included in an employee's regular rate of pay pursuant to ELM 443.212G. All delivery service supervisors are reminded that city letter carriers should not be excused under the 701 rule unless they have completed the routes and cannot be assigned to any available work in the same wage level. Local management at all delivery units must re-emphasize to all city letter carriers that they must apprise their supervisor of their desire to clock out prior to completion of a full 8-hour workday, minus time covered by the 5-minute leeway rule. So that's M 1913. So, back in COVID, the parties got together and they came up with a memorandum of understanding on re-implementing the 701 rule. Now, we always have the 701 rule. Matter of fact, it's on the leave slip, 3971, 701 rule. But it depends. It depends. Because here's the position. Here's where we're at. During the summer months, June, July, and August, we're telling our carriers to take breaks as needed in the heat. Manager says keep it moving, beat the heat, and then you're talking about the 701 rule, right? Some carriers choose to get out the heat period. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to skip everything. I'm going home. I'm going to go swimming. I'm going to get into my air-conditioned house. Some are saying, hey, I don't have the option. I'm out here. I'm going to take breaks as needed in this heat. That's where we are as a craft. Some carriers would definitely love to do it. And some carriers say, I'm not doing it at all, ever, period. I will never 701. So where do you lie? Where are we as a craft? I know that when we take over, I would love to get with the Director of Safety and Health, that'll be Rob Cozier, and try to come up with something. I've talked about this before, some kind of memorandum for summer months, June, July, and August. They do not count for anything. No data can be used for route inspection data. Why do you care what we do? I'm going to read some thermometer readings to y'all. Okay? And these are just people send me these, and I take these off of social media. Here's a vehicle, it's 118 degrees. Here's another one, 147 degrees. She says, this is in my LLV today. 147 degrees. West Tennessee today, 120. That's with the windows down and the fans going, 120. Here's another one, 137.4 degrees. Here's another one, 120 degrees. 120.4 degrees. 114 degrees. 106 degrees at 9 a.m. in the vehicle. 106.5. 95 degrees at 9 a.m. 99 degrees at 9 a.m. Here's another one. 135 degrees. Says that the temperature reached 145 degrees in the LLV. I'm going to read this to you. How objects feel to the touch at 120 degrees. Surfaces exposed to direct sunlight absorb and radiate much more heat, often reaching 140 degrees to 160. Metal. Car interior, seat belts, and metal flashing will cause immediately contact burns at 120 degrees. Asphalt and concrete, it becomes dangerous to walk barefoot as the pavement can easily scorch skin even through the soles of shoes. Now that's outside. Experiencing an air temperature of 120 degrees feels like stepping into a blast furnace or a convention oven. Now that's stepping into it. Now you're talking about stepping into a blast furnace or a convention oven at 120 degrees. You've seen them up to 135, 37, 140. Think of doing that for 8 hours. 120 degrees for 8 hours. Now your president is talking about you doing it for 10 hours. Think about that. The blanket effect. Because the air is hotter than your core body temperature, your body actually absorbs heat from the environment rather than shedding it. Your heart rate and resting metabolic rate surge as your body works frantically to cool itself. This is at 120 degrees and you're out there 8 hours. Your body for 8 hours is constantly trying to do that. For 8 hours, your body is constantly trying to do that. Your heart rate and resting metabolic rate surge as your body, or metabolic rate surges as your body works frantically to cool itself. Sweat evaporation. You'll sweat profusely, but at this extreme heat, the sweat often evaporates instantly or becomes overwhelming, leaving you feeling sticky and severely dehydrated. A heat index this severe enters the extreme danger category. Heat exhaustion is highly likely, and heat stroke becomes a life-threatening emergency within minutes of exposure of 120 degrees. That's your vehicle. What you can cook at 120 degrees for 8 hours. This is what you can cook at 120 degrees for 8 hours. Now, some of y'all are out there 130, 135, and 140. At 120 degrees, you're out there 8 hours. This is what you can cook. You can slow roast tough cuts of meat, like brisket, chuck roast, or pork shoulder, for 8 hours, to break down connective tissues while keeping the meat tender. If you meant 8 hours in a slow cooker, pulled pork or chili are highly forgiving and can simmer safely for 8 to 12 hours at 120 degrees. So you can simmer things for 8 to 12 hours at 120 degrees. If you tell me what specific cut of meat or recipe you're planning to cook at 120 degrees, I can help you find safe, tried, and true recipe. That's us every day. Fruits and vegetables, drying items like apples, bananas, tomatoes, or peppers at 120 degrees for 8 hours removes moisture, resulting in shelf-stable snacks or additions for backpacking meals. Beef jerky. For meat jerky, food safety authorities recommend pre-cooking the meat to an internal temperature of that. Proofing yeast dough. While it doesn't take 8 hours, placing a bowl of yeast dough at 120 degrees will gently accelerate the fermentation and proofing process. Dehydrating and drying. If referring to a dehydrator or a low temperature oven, 120 degrees is optimal environment for removing moisture. Cooking at 120 degrees for 8 hours is an ideal combination of time and temperature for precision cooking methods, such as sous vide, I guess that's how you say it, to pasteurize and gently tenderize meats, or for dehydrating certain fruits and vegetables, beef roasts or steaks. So that's you every day in your vehicle. That's what your body is dealing with at 120 degrees. Now, you talk about the 701 rule. You're talking about things that we can do during the summer months to help get us out of those environments. So I said that you showed where you had packages sitting on the ground when carriers get there. You got to go outside and you got to do your packages yourself. There are thousands of them on the ground. Okay? All the vehicle doors open, they're separating their packages. I told you about when I was on the National Safety Committee going to Bruce Getz, who was over the area for safety, saying, hey, why don't you let carriers just stick their DPS? Well, Ops says that they're worried about our efficiency. Our efficiency. During the summer where it doesn't matter. Ops is worried about our efficiency. They're not worried about your life. They're not worried about your safety, your health. They're worried about your numbers. So that's what you have to combat whenever you're dealing with these motherfuckers across the table, is that they're worried about their numbers, and we should be worried about your safety. Even though I've seen nothing from anybody about our fucking safety. The only things I've seen about our fucking safety are from Light fucking Blue on social media. Talking about heat, talking about what you drink, talking about how to stay hydrated, and all these different things. We're doing that. But the figureheads, I don't see anything talking about our safety and our health. And so, but I went to Bruce. I said, hey, let's talk about sticking the DPS. Something that we can do in the office. Well, now they're fucking cutting off their air conditioning, right? So you've got sticking the DPS. If I'm going to sit down with the next Director of Safety and Health, it's going to be Rob Cozier, come up with something that we can take to management and make them tell us no. Make them tell us no, and I'm going to snitch on them for that too. When we go in front of somebody talking about, I remember when Renfro went in there and talking about HIP, and he had an opportunity to say they falsified all of it. He said, well, there were some discrepancies. He failed us, even though this motherfucker's supposed to be one of those that I see all these business agents sucking his ass about how he talks to Congress and Senate. I saw him talk to them when they questioned him about HIP, about the heat illness planning that they have. And what he say? There were some discrepancies. He didn't say, well, this sounds good. But the motherfuckers falsified every bit of it. I'm getting off on something. But anyway, I would like to have a memorandum of understanding. This is how we're going to deal with carriers in the summer months. Going to be a lot of game planning. What you could do, stick your DPS. Stick your DPS during the summer months. The 701 rule, just like we talked about with M1913. The 701 rule. And I've got some sites for you I'm going to read to you. Your mandatory early start times, 7 a.m. nationwide. They're going to say, well, the mail's not up. All you got to do is curtail a day of mail, and then it will set you forward for the rest of the summer. At the beginning of the summer, curtail the 1 day of deliver packages. That mail will go to the next day. The carriers will stick that. That mail that comes in will be curtailed the next day. That will be stuck. That mail will be curtailed the next day. 1 day of mail. That's all you got to do. You could bring them in at 7 a.m. every single day during the summer. Make that mandatory. We've got to start maximizing carriers in the office, which they hate. They hate office time. My president hates office time. That's the reason he said we will reduce the fixed office time to 20 minutes in the next joint process. So stupid. But they hate office time. So much so that they're going to cut the air conditioner off on us. But we have to have some kind of memorandum of understanding for the summer months. We've got to. Get with your director of safety and health and say, this is going to be the memorandum of understanding for the summer months. This is what we're going to follow. The 701 rule will be in there for those that choose to use it. Some do not, and that's fine. The union, these arbitration sites, the ones that we have lost, is the union telling management not to do it. It's very deceiving. There's only 7. There's only 701 arbitrations in the database. There's 7. Out of the thousands upon thousands of decisions on everything else, there's 7 dealing with the 701 rule. 2 of them are sustained. 4 of them are denied. That's deceiving because some of those that were denied, it's the union telling management they cannot 701 because they were saying that they were showing favoritism. And there's one that was modified. But I'll just read them to you. Kind of, it's a tricky grievance for us. Okay, I know that my management long time ago, and this is one of my favorite managers. He said that the postmaster said that the only way you would be able to 701 is if you did a takeoff. I said, then nobody's going to do it because that's not what it states. This was years ago. I said, that's not what it states. There is no criteria that you can 701 if you do a takeoff. Well, that's what he said. I said, then nobody's going to do it. But we're not going to do that. We either all can do it under the provisions that's set forth in the ELM, or nobody's going to do it. But that was what they did. You see that a lot. You can only 701 if you do a takeoff. There's no such language. No such language. So I'm going to read a few of them. It's a lot of reading, and I apologize. But it's pros and cons. It's for and against. But it's deceiving because you'll see the ones that we lost is when the was in the union saying you can't do it. Okay? The first one I'm going to read is from arbitrator William Dolson. It's C21159. And it's going to show you it's a tricky little subject for us. A tricky little grievance. Okay? But I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. 21159 is arbitrator William Dolson. Award summary. For the reasons set forth in the opinion, I conclude that the Postal Service violated the national agreement when it denied the agreement incidental short-term annual leave on July 14, 1999, while at the same time excusing other carriers to leave work early on those days under the 701 rule. The grievance is granted as follows. The grievance shall be granted 2 hours compensated short-term annual leave to be taken at its discretion. Now, the reason I'm reading these is there is some good language, and it kind of tells you some road bumps that you're going to see. Okay? Now, anytime you're talking about the 701 rule, I read it to you earlier. It's going to be found in the ELM 432.53. 432.53. Employee and Labor Relations Manual 432.53, City Letter Carriers 701 Rule. A city letter carrier who actually works more than 7 hours but less than 8 hours of a regular scheduled day and who is officially excused from the completion of the 8-hour tour is credited with 8 hours of work time for pay purposes. This is known as the 701 Rule. And so I'm going to read these opinions, and I'm going to kind of show you where they're at. This one's the lengthy one, the lengthiest one I've got on discussion. When the parties were unable to reach a stipulation as to the issue, they requested that I frame it. Accordingly, the issue in this case is whether management violated the national agreement with denied the agreement incidental short-term annual leave for July 14th and 15th, 1999. This case involves a tension between short-term annual leave and the 701 rule. In short, does management violate the national agreement when it allows carriers to use the 701 rule while other carriers in the same station are denied short-term annual leave for the same time period. The Postal Service argues that it is within management's discretion to make the determination of whether a carrier request for short-term leave is approved and whether a carrier is authorized to leave work early under the 701 rule. The Postal Service points out that Item 12B of the LMOU contains the phrase may be approved, and that the use of the word may indicates it was the party's intention in agreeing to this language that approval of requests for short-term annual leave is not automatic, but rather discretionary with management. But this connotation with which management now places on the word may might not have been intended when the parties negotiated the LMOU. Sometimes the words may and shall are used interchangeably. Moreover, it should be noted that in Item A of the LMOU, which covers advance application for annual leave, there is language that annual leave will be granted on a seniority basis. The use of the word will can be interpreted as meaning a promise or consent to act favorably. Yet the reason management gave for denying the grievance short-term annual leave was insufficient help. Nothing was mentioned about his lack of seniority. The Postal Service's primary position in this case is that it properly exercised its discretion on July 14th and 15th, 1999, when it rejected the grievance request for short-term annual leave and granted the request of other carriers for 701 time. The union argues, however, that the Postal Service discretion is limited by language in the National Agreement, the 1983 Gilda Letter, and the attached rule. The union further contends that Part 5, 12.61a of the ELM provides that leave requests are being granted to extent possible. It maintains it was practicable and therefore mandatory for management to have granted the grievance leave request. An examination of the language in Part 5, 12.61a shows this provision clearly applies to vacation leave. Whether it applies to short-term annual leave is not as clear. Based on the record, I am not convinced that its scope includes short-term annual leave. Arbitrator DeLeon Klein, in the decision cited above, stated that the Postal Service did not violate the National Agreement when it allowed carriers to use the 701 rule while other carriers in the same station were working overtime. Now listen to this decision now, and I'll read it. She opined that there is no provision in the National Agreement to support the claim that a 701 rule cannot be utilized if another carrier is working overtime. However, unlike the present case, the case decided by arbitrator DeLeon Klein involved a tension between 701 time and overtime. I find that her reasoning is not applicable in the present case. For example, now listen to this language, because this is when management tells us, well, you can't 701 because I have carriers out there on overtime. So all the carriers have to do a straight 8 hours before anybody can 701. But since I got carriers out there doing pivots on overtime, you're not allowed to 701, which is what a lot of y'all probably hear. Listen to DeLeon Klein's reasoning. If the union's position on overtime were upheld, there could be an infringement on the rights of those carriers who express their wishes to work overtime by signing the overtime desired list. In addition, if the union were to prevail on the issue of overtime, then the 701 rule could not be utilized even if the carrier on the overtime list wanted the extra hours. So this is where this case with DeLeon Klein, the union is grieving it, saying that you cannot 701. The problem that is posed in the above quote indicates there is actually a tension between three groups: a group of carriers who desire 701 time, a group of carriers who do not want to work overtime, and a group of carriers who wish to work overtime. In the present case, the tension is confined to a group of carriers who desire 701 time and a carrier who desires short-term annual leave. Assuming arbitrator DeLeon Klein is correct in pointing out that deciding for a class of carriers, the grievance who do not desire overtime, would have adversely affected a third-party class comprised who did desire overtime, that reasoning does not fit in the present case. This is because there is no similar third-party class which would have been adversely affected by the approval of the grievance application for short-term annual leave. Those carriers who do not desire short-term annual leave need only refrain from applying for it. Now listen to this language out of DeLeon Klein's decision. As it regards the F-21 provision, carriers are generally given their assignments in the morning, and if the workload is heavy, auxiliary assistance is provided and or overtime is authorized. If the extra work is already assigned and a particular carrier subsequently completes his or her duties in less than 8 hours but more than 7 hours, there may be no additional work available since it has already been pre-assigned. And that's a fantastic decision. When management says, well, you can't go out because carriers are on overtime, this is what she says. If the extra work is already assigned and a particular carrier subsequently completes his or her duties in less than 8 hours, but more than 7 hours, there may be no additional work available since it has already been pre-assigned. So you already assigned the overtime work. I'm done. I want to go home. Well, there's people doing overtime. You've already assigned that work. You've already assigned that work to somebody. So that's a great decision because that's one of management's biggest arguments. Well, you can't 701 because there's carriers out on overtime. The scenario outlined above is not applicable in this present case. In the present case, authorizing the agreement to take annual leave would have created a need for someone to be assigned to his route. Apparently, there was no auxiliary assistance and or overtime available for this purpose. As a result, there was additional work available for those carriers who were authorized to leave work early by utilizing the 701 rule. So they're saying that they're showing favoritism. Nevertheless, arbitrator DeLeon Klein did make a comment which is significant in the present case. The effect of the 1983 Gilda letter and a rule of postal bulletin on the administration of the 701 rule, she stated, the language of the proposed bulletin does, however, lend support to the union's position regarding the inclusion of section 222.53 of the F-21 and the consideration of the 711 provision of the ELM. Section 222 of the F-21 covers guaranteed time. Part 222.53, which is cited in the rule or postal bulletin, provides that an employee who works his route in less than 8 hours is not entitled to 8 hours guaranteed time unless he cannot be assigned to any available work in the same wage level for which the employee is qualified. Part 222.1 of the F-21 defines guaranteed time, and a 701 time seems to fall within that definition. In fact, 701 time is credited on the time printout, hours type inquiry report, as guaranteed time. The record does not reveal whether the La Crosse station is a non-PSDS office, which is covered by the F-21, or a PSDS office, which is covered by the F-22. The F-22 does not contain language similar to that in part in 222.53 of the F-21. However, it is my opinion that Part 222.53 may be read into the F-22. See arbitrator DeLeon Klein's opinion in the case cited above that the F-21 and F-22 may be considered and applied together. Reading the Gilda letter and rule or postal bulletin in light of Part 222.53 of the F-21, it is my judgment that they create a contractual limitation on management's discretion to authorize carrier 701 time when annual leave is involved as here. And so she goes on and she sustains the grievance, and the individual got 2 hours. So you see the headache. You see the headache in just one decision. The different variables that you wouldn't think, hell, I just want a 701. I got back after 7, I want a 701. All the different variables that come into play. F-22 handbook, F-21 handbook, the LM provision, overtime desire list, pre-approval. All these different things are things that we're going to have to be ready to argue if we're going to file for 701. I would love, like I said, to have something that was printed out like 1913 for the summer months. I would love to have that. So those carriers desiring the 701 would be allowed to do so and wouldn't be a headache for the summer months because they don't count for anything, like I said. This is arbitrator Mark Lurie, 14445. 14445. This is a short decision. There's nothing in the language of Article 3 of the agreement which precludes the granting of a managerial discretion to employees under the self-directed work concept. By identifying one manner of managerial empowerment, assignment to the 204B position, the agreement did not preclude all others, and specifically, the agreement did not preclude the parties, through their representatives at the national level, from mutually agreeing upon the formulation and implementation of their self-directed work program as they have through their National Joint Employee Involvement Committee. The granting of managerial discretion carries the corresponding authority that the service will be bound by the managerial decisions made. The managerial decision of a self-directed employee should be deemed no less binding and enforceable than that of a regular supervisor. This was the clear intent of the committee guidelines and was also the manifest reason that those guidelines devoted an extension effort to defining the goals, methods, discretion, and responsibilities with which the self-directed carriers would be charged. In this regard, the arbitrator finds that the parties in the Goodlettsville office failed to develop the structured approach to implementing the self-directed work program contemplated by the RJSC-LGSC Planning Guide and the Unit Planning Guide of the Committee Guidelines. Indeed, there appears to have been no discourse with the self-directed carriers aside from the single stand-up meeting which Postmaster Buck had conducted. It was within this void that the dispute of the self-directed carriers' authority to apply the 701 rule to themselves arose. There has not been shown to have been a published or otherwise clearly expressed limitation in the Goodlettsville office upon management applying the 701 rule to non-overtime situations. Certainly, there's been no proof that a self-directed carriers were expressly informed of such a policy, or that they were told that they were not authorized to apply the 701 rule to themselves. The sole evidence of the claimed operational limitation on the use of the 701 rule was the testimony of Postmaster Buck that between the time of the stand-up meeting and the February 26th, the carriers had followed the practice of posting notes on both overtime needed and assistance furnished. The arbitrator finds that this evidence was insufficient to establish that there existed, as of February 26, 1994, a clearly enunciated and well understood policy of prohibiting management and the self-directed carriers from applying the 701 rule when there existed overtime on one or more routes. Had a regular supervisor under the same circumstances advised any of the agreements and that she could take advantage of the 701 rule, and the employee done so, then even if the supervisor's decision was later determined to be wrong, the employee would still have been entitled to the benefit of the decision. This is because an employee has the right to rely upon the decisions of the supervisor. If that reliance causes the employee to act, and if the rescission of the supervisor's decision will thereafter place the employee at a disadvantage, then the rescission will not stand. The legal principle in contract law is termed promissory estoppel. Now, the reason I'm reading this one, you've been doing this all along, right? The supervisor says they allow it. The postmaster says they allow it. You do it, and later they come back and they say, hey, look, I'm going to have to take your annual because district has come down and said we can't do it. So I'm going to have to take your annual on that one and use that. We cannot 701. This happens all the time. Hey, look, I know I was letting you 701. My postmaster's the same way. Hey, we've been doing 701 forever. Well, the postmaster said we can't do that. So we're going to have to take the carriers and use their annual leave. This decision is perfect for that. It says this is because an employee has the right to rely upon the decisions of his supervisor. You've always let me do it. I've always been doing this. Well, the new postmaster, if that reliance causes the employee to act, and if the rescission of the supervisor's decision will thereafter place the employee at a disadvantage, you're taking my annual leave. I wanted 701. Then the rescission will not stand. The legal principle in contract law is termed promissory estoppel. The question which ensues is whether the same consequences will flow if the letter carrier were acting as his own supervisor. The arbitrator concludes that so long as the letter carrier is acting in good faith, the same consequence will result. And so that one's 14445. Fantastic language for those situations where I've been doing it all this time, and now they told me that we can't, and they're going to take my annual. That's a good decision for you. And here's another one that we lost, but we were going after the same thing, that management was allowing carriers to 701 while other carriers were using overtime. And so the union came in and said, hey, look, that's disparate because those that are doing overtime can't 701. And so this is what they said. After evaluating the documentary evidence and considering the arguments of the parties, the arbitrator finds that the Postal Service did not violate the national agreement when it allowed carriers to use the 701 rule while others in the same station were working overtime. There is no provision in the national agreement to support the claim that the 701 rule cannot be utilized if another carrier is working overtime. Now you see the script kind of flipped, right? They're saying you can't 701 because carriers are out in overtime. So that's why I'm saying this is a very precarious position. Very peculiar because the arguments will go both ways. The union filed this one saying that, well, you can't allow them to 701 because carriers are still out on overtime. But now what would management say? Well, you can't 701 because carriers are out on overtime. So it's very odd argument for us. You got decision. We could turn in a decision to support our position where we lost the arbitration decision. That's how weird this argument is. Okay? And that's the reason probably there's only 7 decisions. But again, there's no provision in the national agreement to support the claim that the 701 rule cannot be utilized if another carrier is working overtime. The 701 rule is set forth in Part 432.53 of the M, outlines 2 criteria for its use and application. 1, the carrier must work more than 7 but less than 8 hours on his or her regularly scheduled workday. That's an easy one. 2, management must officially excuse the carrier from the completion of an 8-hour tour. The application of the rule is not predicated upon the absence of overtime assignments in the station. In fact, the rule set forth in the M makes no reference to overtime. It appears to the arbitrator that the union is attempting to add to the established conditions for applying the 701 rule. If the union's position on overtime were upheld, there could be an infringement on the rights of those carriers who have expressed their wishes to work overtime by signing the overtime desired list. In addition, if the union were to prevail on the issue of overtime, then the 701 rule could not be utilized even if the carrier on the overtime list wanted the extra hours. As it regards the F-21 and F-22 handbook, these manuals are related to timekeeping or time and attendance. They do not establish postal operations per se. They address guaranteed time and how that time is to be recorded when an employee has been released by management prior to the completion of a full 8-hour day. Both handbooks state that the intention of the instructions is not to amend or conflict with other contract provisions. Both handbooks also state that the instructions may be used with or supplemented by other manuals, handbooks, etc. This lends support to the union's claim that the F-21 and F-22 are inclusive. As regards the Gilded Letter, it was a draft of proposed bulletin. The cover letter states that the contents of the bulletin did not constitute a change directly relating to wages, hours, or working conditions. Its contents are not incorporated into the national agreement through Article 19. The language of the proposed bulletin does, however, lend support to the union's position regarding the inclusion of Section 222.53 of the F-21 and the consideration of the 701 provision of the ELM. Significantly, this proposal places no prohibition on the utilization of the 701 rule when there is also overtime in the facility. The Postal Service did not violate Article 5 or Article 8 in this case. There was no evidence of an Article 14 violation here. Management did not encourage carriers to skip a lunch in order to be able to use the 701 rule. There are various situations or conditions which can lead to an 8-hour assignment being completed in under 8 hours. For example, on Saturday, delivery time may be reduced because many businesses are not open. In fact, the union contended that the egregious violations occur on Saturday. In addition, mail volumes, weather conditions, and personal motivations vary from day to day. If a particular carrier uses the 701 rule more than others, it does not necessarily mean that his or her route is underburdened. If there is a problem with workload, the national agreement provides for special route inspections to be conducted, in addition to any regular count and inspection procedure. If a route is out of adjustment and the carrier frequently uses the 701 rule, it does not automatically follow that he/she is being given preferential treatment. The route in question should, however, be inspected. The parties agree that the 701 rule has been used in Minneapolis for years. There is no evidence to show that the union has challenged its application prior to the instant case. The manner in which management has implemented the 701 procedure appears to be a well-established and accepted past practice. According to management, it is utilized only when they can save money in doing so. While it is advantageous to a carrier to work quickly and be able to leave work early, and while it is equally advantageous to management to have customers receive mail early, it does not necessarily follow that management has thereby established an inappropriate incentive program for increased productivity. If the 701 rule is considered by the union to be a unilaterally promulgated incentive program, said issue should be addressed at the national level. And he denied that one. And here's the last one, C18857, 18857, and this is arbitrator Vrana, and this is 1998, and this one was denied as well. In the instant case, the union contends that March 8, 1997, management disparately invoked the 701 rule. In support, the union argues that it is unfair for some letter carriers to get to leave work early under 701 time, while others are forced to continue working their 8 hours. In short, the union asserts that if one letter carrier is entitled to take 701 time at all letter carriers should be afforded 701 time. However, the union's position greatly expands the express requirements of the 701 rule. For instance, there is no language in the 701 rule that makes it universal or mandatory. Rather, the 701 rule simply states that supervisors shall not grant 701 time unless the letter carrier has completed his or her own route, and that cannot be assigned to any available work in the same wage level for which they are qualified. In the instant case, management undisputably complied the 701 rule's requirements. For example, Dennis Jones, supervisor, Zone 73, provided unrebutted testimony, established that on March 8th, 3 letter carriers requested 701 time. When the letter carriers requested the 701 time, Jones tried to find work to keep the letter carriers occupied. However, Jones determined that they had completed the routes and that there was no work available in the same wage level. Furthermore, the unit was clean. In particular, the letter carriers' route books were current. They completed the EPID, their cases were clean, and their pink cards were current. As a result, Jones granted the letter carriers' request. Again now, if overtime is assigned, that work is not available. And if that's management's argument, you would say that work is not available because the work has been assigned. Okay. In response, the union argued that there was work available in the letter carrier's wage level because Yager worked 1.65 hours of overtime. See stipulations of fact. More specifically, the union contends that Jones should have required the letter carriers to assist Yeager before granting their request for 701 time. However, Jones presented unrebutted testimony establishing that March 8th, a Saturday, was a light mail day. More importantly, however, Jones established that no one submitted a 3996 requesting overtime. Moreover, Yeager never notified Jones orally or via 3996 that he may need auxiliary assistance before he left for the street. Furthermore, Jones testified that when Yeager needs assistance, he always calls from the street by 4. However, on March 8th, Yeager never called the station to notify them that he needed auxiliary assistance or that he would be working overtime. As a result, at the time the 3 letter carriers requested 701 time, Jones was not aware of Yeager's need to work overtime. As the facts plainly indicate, when the letter carriers requested undertime, Jones had no way of knowing that Yeager would need auxiliary assistance, and so he denied the agreement. So there you have it. 701 rule. Difficult. Very easy when you look at it, A lot of variables, very difficult. But like I said, when we take over the end of this year, we will immediately start working on, me and Rob Cozier, on some kind of memorandum of sort of the summer, for the summer months, okay? I'm tired of my people dying and succumbing to the heat. We're going to put a lot of heat on management, no pun intended, about that, okay? We're going to have to do something to fight for the city letter carriers. We need people to stand up. We need for our national officers to stand up and fight for us. And we're going to put a lot of emphasis on the summer, okay, and protecting our letter carriers from this heat. That's a promise from me to you. We're going to do that. One last thing, and then I'll be gone. This is a lot longer than I thought it would be, and I apologize. I saw this the other day. Somebody put it up. Stand-up talk today. The VMF will no longer fix air conditioning in vans and ProMasters. I guess that also means not charging the AC. Why? The answer we got was that LOVs don't have AC, so we'll be fine without it. Now, that's the motherfuckers we work for. You finally give us a vehicle with air, it goes out, will you fix it? No, because LOVs don't have air. That's the sorry, low-down motherfuckers we work with. Work for. You know? That's a sorry piece of shit. And so, I'll read it again. Stand Up Talk today. VMF will no longer fix AC in vans and ProMasters. I guess that also means not charging the AC. Why? The answer we got was that LLVs don't have AC, so we'll be fine without it. If you look on page 14.9 of the JCAM, page 14.9 of the JCAM, there's a memorandum of understanding between the United States Postal Service and the NLC regarding air-conditioned vehicles. The Postal Service will make every effort to acquire vehicles equipped with air conditioning for use by city letter carrier craft employees. If the Postal Service plans to acquire vehicles not equipped with air conditioning due to the climate in a particular geographic location or another factor, the issue will be discussed with the national union. The Postal Service will continue to follow repair and maintenance procedures to ensure that any necessary maintenance or repairs to air conditioning systems are completed in a timely manner. Inspection of the vehicle's air conditioning systems will be included in preventive maintenance inspections, and I would request those maintenance inspections from the VMF. I would request all of them, and I'm going to file agreements on Article 14, okay? To these bastards that say, well, no, you don't need air because LOVs don't. You stupid fuck. God. Look, when I first started with the Postal Service, we had Jeeps. I rode in the Jeeps for a long time. No air conditioning. Then we went to the LLV. No air conditioning. Then we went to the FFV. No air conditioning. So it's not a priority to anybody but the city letter carrier. Because my whole career, we've been without air conditioning. Now we finally have a van that has air conditioning. Now, I don't have one, but I got an FFV. But finally get a van that has air conditioning after all these years of not having air. And what's this dumb fuck say? Well, you don't need air because LLVs don't. You stupid fucking piece of shit. That's who we work for. Are dumbasses like that. We need to expose them. We need to expose the shit out of them. I don't know how, but we will. We will. All right. There you have it. There's a long episode for you, okay? Monday. Y'all have a safe rest of the week. San Diego, we'll see you on the 9th, okay? Y'all pray for my branch. Lost everything today in that fire. Terrible situation. Terrible situation. I'll talk to y'all next Monday. It's going to be another long one, okay? Going to be another long one. And then may have a special episode this week. We may. Pay attention. You will not want to miss it. You will not want to miss it. I'll find out tonight what we're going to do, but you won't want to miss it. It will piss you the fuck off more than you've been pissed off in a long time. All right? I love you, Light Blue. I love you. We are coming. We are coming. Retribution is coming. To all this shit, retribution is coming. No more cowardice, no more word salad, no more of that bullshit. Character integrity is coming back. Militancy is coming back. Okay? We're bringing it back. I promise you that. Y'all have a fantastic rest of the week. Be safe. I love you. Bye.